What are you talking about? Oh, it was 6 minutes and 41 seconds.
Sorry about that. Mill was running.
Let me just restart.
Had to watch it finish this section.
Oh, nice.
I've got one ear.
Good morning.
Morning.
Afternoon.
What? That was quite the light you got going on there.
Party time. Wake myself up. What are you running on the mill?
Well,
Secret sauce?
More client projects. More client work.
Yep.
Work. Job shop work. Haven't spoken much today, apparently. And I've been up for hours. I did get, so this is the first time we bought a hydraulic holder. Which we have one. We inherited one with the mill, and it got broken last year, I think. I think the hydraulic holder is fine. It's the extension and the head that was on it that's like $400 that came with the mill too. And I just was like, yeah, that's not worth replacing. So we got a Haas version, and now I'm getting this hydraulic holder, which it's just an interesting new concept for me. I'm sure a lot of people listening are like, yeah, duh, that's a thing. But it's like got improved run out. It's got vibration dampening kind of like by default. So I've never used one. It's really weird. You like stick it in, you need a specialized collet that's longer, and then you set screw till it like bottoms out, I guess, which is weird, like down perpendicular to the shaft, like pretty far. It's not an end mill holder where you hit a flat. It like, they're weird looking.
Weird, squishy. I've never seen one, never used one. I take it.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if it improves some of our like vibration issues we've been having with this one tool.
Yeah, okay. Is the collet just like a straight thing? Straight sleeves?
Yeah, it's very straight. It's longer. I think it's more precisely ground than like an ER. It doesn't collapse as much. It's like really close to the actual, like it doesn't have a range. It's meant for a specific size of shaft. Less flexible, but intended for better run out, for better gripping, better vibration dampening, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I guess when you think about it, like an ER, 32, it's quite a big range for a precision tool.
It is. It's a lot. Yeah. I think when you get the step up in quality of ER collets, like there's like, I think router people often get the like lower end because we don't need it for run out. You lose some of the stepping. There's less range in the clamping ability.
Sure.
This has been Tool Talk with Justin and Jim.
Do you ever want to buy a Haas? Are you ever compelled?
Yeah. I think it could. It's interesting. You hear like even on that, on the trip last week, you hear people that like that's their world. Everything they have is a Haas. There's people that I saw this guy just bought a crazy $700,000 system and yet still liked UMC's like a machine that could hold 5 digits down into tolerance and yet still uses Haas's for a lot of things. So what's really appealing about it is like how widespread it's like, buying maybe a Camry, Toyota Camry, probably more like a GM product, I guess here. They're just, there's service everywhere. They're super easy to shop for. You can just like price out your machine anytime you want. And so that's really appealing. Depending on if we had a lot of issues with needing more quality or precision or something, then I could see going down a route of finding a different type of machine. But they do just seem like you get what you get. You kind of understand what you're getting. It's not going to be wildly bad or good.
Yeah.
That's what I understand. Yeah.
That one of our dear listeners sent us an amazing video during the week. Justin sent it to me.
I don't know if I'll say their name because I didn't want to share the video publicly, but
no need to.
Pretty amazing.
That's so cool.
Setup.
Like UR robot integration into a wood shop, basically.
Was there more than one robot? As it felt like there was 2, but maybe I just saw it weird.
There was a lot going on. I've only watched a couple of times. I need to study it more closely, but
10 more times.
That UR was sanding, and there was like, I guess the conveyor added another axis because there was a little buffing wheel and stuff. But super cool setup. Pretty much, my comment to you was like, that's pretty much what my dream setup. It's just like,
yeah, right.
A little tight automation processing, doing different processes. Because it was spraying as well. Sanding, spraying, buffing
I think
edges.
that's what I thought was the other robot, but maybe that's just the same robot.
Maybe, I don't know. And even
it takes a break and changes its head.
Even the way those press clamps were built in the wall, the little modules for the glue up and the clamp up. It's just
right,
so cool.
Yeah, I think I'm curious. I'll probably message back, but the calculation that they shared of how to get to that kind of ROI was kind of in a grand sense. It's like $40,000 for the setup, not just the robot, but I think maybe the conveyor belt, I would hope.
Yeah.
Like there's cool, we didn't even mention there's cool touch screens involved with this where like you pick the product and then it like probably changes the orientation of how the sander moves, which is an orbital sander attached to a UR robot, which sands the edge of a plywood product. And some of it's already finished. So it's like, very precisely only sanding the part that needs to be sanded so that they can then finish it. And that is a thing I mentioned to you. I was like, that's tough to do well, like by yourself, to sand the edge of a piece of plywood and not round it and have it be consistent. So the robot makes a lot of sense if it's rigid.
Nice flat wrist, precise wrist movements. Yeah. Does make a lot of sense.
It's not looking at TikTok.
When we used to make our crates like glued and nailed together for years before we developed clip crates, there was this funny thing that used to happen in our old workshop in Kensington, which had an upstairs and a downstairs. Workshop was downstairs. If someone was sanding a particular size of crate, like edge sanding the top edge of it, it would create this crazy resonance, and that resonant frequency would set off all the other crates of that size in the office. So if, Tom was downstairs sanding a CLR, which is a crate large rectangle, any crate large rectangle in the office would go just like at the same frequency. It's bizarre.
It's like a religious experience for them. They're like, oh, one of ours is calling. So you don't miss that, I assume.
No, not that noise, no. I have a strange fondness for it, but no.
I think, I was meaning to say the calculation, sorry, I thought about it as you were saying, didn't finish. I was too excited about all the other features. Is about $40,000 for the setup. Seems to be mostly, maybe they readapt it, but it does sanding on edges, and then there's a conveyor belt to kind of another setup where there's a little bit of a spray booth, and that's kind of all that was shown. But that calculation was kind of like, well, that's most of a salary of somebody that would do that sanding and finishing.
Yeah.
To replace. And that's an interesting thing. What I want to know is like how many things need to be sanded. Like that's my curiosity, because it's like I would want to know, like, I guess if you already had a certain amount of volume, you could kind of get there, but
that's the thing.
I'm always on the other side of it. Like, how many do I need to make it make sense?
That's the jumping off point, right?
Yeah.
Because that's been one of my hesitations with Cobot investment in the past, of not wanting to just, like, my intention is not to replace people at all.
Yeah. Right.
I want to replace processes. Same reason I built a tumbler. Right. I don't want Rowan sitting there for half a day awkwardly sanding those little kidder caps one at a time.
Yep.
I don't want to replace Rowan with a tumbler, but I don't want him to have to sit there and do that, or whoever else is doing that process. So yeah, it's an interesting sort of weighing up all those factors and incentives.
It's just basic good lean, though, right?
No, I know.
Like,
yeah, but you could
lean manufacturing. You're improving the experience for the human.
Yeah.
While the robot does the work that people don't want to do. Do more skilled labor. Do thinking work. Like I remember this video of Pearson forever ago talking about this idea. This is probably like 8 years ago now. It's on YouTube. He was talking about, thinking about putting robots in, and there's always been this backlash of like, oh, it replaces humans. And it's like, the reality though is his point was that I want people to do less repetitive work, and I want them to do thinking work that the robot doesn't do. Like, I want you to use your brain, not your wrist and your bicep constantly.
Yeah. And like, there was something, very appealing about that video that our listener sent, because you could imagine that plywood product being done, in volume. It must be done in decent volume to sort of justify a setup like that.
Right.
And then,
better not be 50,
And then, trying to think about our own products in that way of like, cool, what are the widgets that we're doing in volume that we could adapt ideas like that to? Fun.
Right.
I think.
We're doing the same thing with just like, the talk about the, like, any automation. It's like talking about the lathe idea here, and like we're spinning up like, well, what are all the things we could make on one? Like, we have these like tangents of ideas of like, oh, we've thought about this thing and this thing and this thing, and what if that could all go on it? And all of that's exciting, except for like, you need the demand. Like, it'd be really hard. Like, I can do a lot of that inefficiently with a mill. It's not impossible. It's not automatic. It's like onesie twosies or weird fixtures. And then it's like, when you get in my mind, when I get the demand, the interest for enough where we need to like offload that or automate it, then it's like you buy the machine, hopefully, which I've done in the reverse too many times.
Me too.
That looks shiny. Let's buy it.
Yeah. Shiny toys. Meow. There weren't any humanoid bots at IMTS, were there? It was all just arms.
I bet there were, and I didn't see them. There was a pen. I'm working on this recap video that I'm sure nobody's waiting for, but it is pretty. I sent it to a friend just to kind of pre-watch, like, if it was interesting or made sense, some of it, and said it was really interesting. He's not in the market of like even metal working at all as a woodworker. It's like, that was really interesting. I watched all of it, and I was like,
cool.
Oh, didn't expect that, like, cool. But there's part of it is I have a segment on just the weird robot things I saw. And there's like a pen of Boston Dynamic dogs.
Oh, a pen?
There's like 5 or 6 of them. The problem is like, they sound exciting, and then you watch it and it's just like, they move really slowly, and like, because like, they're not doing their like high performance exhibit that they're going to film. It's just like, they're slowly moving around in the pen, like kind of like an animated, what are those little toys that you'd have on the little device when we were a kid? Like a little Tamagotchi or something. yeah. Right. Like a few of those. I did get this good clip of one of its heads like raising up to look at somebody outside the pen. It's like very like sci-fi. I didn't see any humanoid ones, so that's funny.
They were walking amongst you. That's why you didn't see them.
Yeah, didn't even notice.
Yeah. I've always been very fond of those spot dogs.
Right.
I can see myself in the apocalypse with one of those walking around after me in the bush.
Right.
Just keep one on file.
That'd be pretty good. Especially if it could like do the same things as real dogs with like watching the surroundings, and like, it's got these, like, the one I'm talking about has this really long extendable neck telescope pinchy head thing.
Yeah.
It's just terrifying. Like, it could probably get me in the face. So I'll make a commitment to actually, by the time this video's up, there'll be my recap video. If you want to watch it, it won't be highly edited, but
sweet.
I'll put a link in the description for this. So need to get it done before, it'll probably be like next IMTS by the time I finish it otherwise. So just make a commitment to do it.
Awesome. Link in the show notes. I'm keen to see it. I've been on a bit of a AI coding bender this week. A couple of projects. The old 2D configurator got an upgrade with some Tetris inspired music.
Yes, that's good.
Which was mainly just for entertainment. But I fiddled with that a bit more to make some changes and got some bugs out of it, just out of curiosity to see how much further I could kind of push that code refinement. Like that wall we chatted about where the script, where it starts getting a bit long and clunky. Just wanted to see whether I could continue to sort of push past that point and not have it just break the code. it had some success. Obviously, it's still very rudimentary, and the door doesn't fit in where it's supposed to fit. And that was one of the things I just kept butting up against. It's like, it still doesn't fit. And I was struggling to describe to, I think I was using GPT-4o for that one. I was struggling to describe like the alignment of an inset cabinet door. Like, no, it has to be like an equal shutter line all the way around. Come on. And there was a bit of a, I don't know, something was lost in translation there from my descriptions to what he was attempting to do in the code, which was frustrating.
I was just thinking you could be writing in GPT and have Sim Theory be watching that window and then ask Sim Theory,
what's going wrong?
I can't figure out how to tell this AI what to do here. And you get like a little AI inception.
Can you help me talk to this robot, please? Thanks.
I did that this week. That was like my first real use of the, like, if you haven't used Sim Theory, you can have it screen share a window on your computer. It could be a browser, it can be Fusion probably. And I was writing an email to a customer, and they had a lot of tricky, like, you probably do this all the time. My brain doesn't always work this well. Of like, somebody asks for a lot of changes or questions, and I can't like recombobulate them to answer them in the simplest way sometimes.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah.
So I'm like, I just was like, how do I answer this customer? And it like gave me like such good, simple results because it just could see the whole thread of emails at once, which was great. It's so good.
Yeah.
That was a good success.
That's cool. I've found myself, I haven't used it heaps in Sim Theory, but when I do use it, I'm like, this is cool. It's kind of, I still stick behind my theory of, I reckon that some version of that is kind of the future workspace where the AI just is contextually aware of everything you're doing. But I have found myself wanting it on other devices, like on my phone, of like, what do you mean, Siri? Come on. Don't you know that what we're working on here?
I mean, Microsoft proposed that. I don't know if they put it into production yet, but it got a ton of pushback.
So much pushback, yeah. They baked it into a new range of PCs, I think.
Right. I wouldn't want that. I would trust Apple, but not Microsoft to do that.
Yeah, same.
So what did you come up with for Fusion?
Fusion, so I had this custom job. I've wanted to make Fusion scripts forever, and I've made a couple of little dinky ones with some success, first inspired by that one that you shared with me, which was just that simple step import, I think.
I use that like every day.
Yeah.
Like, it's still so useful to me.
And I had this big, so on our slot together shelves, the ones that slot together with a halving joint, we've always forever, like we've been making those shelves for like 15 years, we've always struggled with slot tolerance. Like variation with plywood thickness means slots are either too tight or too loose. And I think it was last year, maybe even this year, Johnny, our machinist, came up with this clever little rebate detail in the slot that means that is no longer an issue, which is amazing. It's always just machined to like a datum slot, and then there's a rebate in the opposite part that means that you can control the tolerance beautifully, even if the material thickness is changing across the sheet, which is amazing. Anyway, the workflow, I'd never, he'd been doing all the changes to the production files up to now, and then we had this custom job come through, which is a big set of shelves. It's like going to hold thousands of records, 4.5 meters wide by 3 meters tall, and it's using our slot together method. And I was getting the file prepped in Fusion for production, and I was like, Johnny, can you show me how you do those little slot things? He gave me a little lesson. I was like, cool, awesome, all right. And as he was describing it, it's like, and you got to do a combined cut twice on every intersection. Make sure you select the right cutting body, the right target body. I was like, okay, so I've got about like 120 combined cuts to do in this custom job, and make sure that I get it right every time and not miss like the tool body in Fusion in the combined cut function. So this is a scripts job. I've got to write a script for this. So I had a very specific job that day of like, I've got to get this file ready. Let's do that in tandem whilst writing a script to do it. And I went back and forth with Can't remember where I go. I think it was 4.0.
One of my slaves.
So one of the steps. Went back and forth, workshopped it, and yeah, we have now a reasonably robust working script where in two commands I can do like the whole job, which was about 100, would have been about 120 individual combined cut operations. Works beautifully. Script works on Johnny's PC as well as my Mac. Doesn't seem any issue there, and yeah, super satisfying. Just having.
Is it readaptable, or is it basically just for this one project then?
No, it's readaptable across any of our shelving products. So anytime we're doing a custom version of those shelves, we can reuse it. And then I also realized it's good because, in Fusion, you can, when you do a combined cut, you can only have one target body. So if, when we do like our cabinets with like multiple components and want to combine cut out, say all the hardware or the cabinetos out of the whole cabinet, you've got to select each target body one at a time and do separate combines.
Right.
Whereas this script, if you rename the body of the cabinet or the hardware that you want to cut out to what the script is looking for, it will do all the combined cuts in a single shot out of all those bodies, which is...
In the timeline, it's just one?
No, in the timeline, it's stacked, multiple. So you get this, like it's basically just looping. So it'll go and rack them all up in the timeline.
Right.
And maybe there's a better way of doing that. But yeah, it gets around that thing of not being able to do multiple target bodies, which is rad. Just, super satisfying.
It technically is doing multiple, like it's just doing it faster than you can do it.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not doing something, like, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. There's a lot. I mean, that's a lot. That's like the same thing as the step importer was like, the alternate was still to this day, you can only import one step file at a time into a file.
Yeah.
And I often have a lot. Yeah. Literally, if it's more than one, I use it for one, like because it's faster to import than I think there's a Windows capability where you can import a step file without uploading it, but I don't use that. So, I've done 100 plus at once, and it's fine, works fine. So it's stuff like that. I think I've thought about trying to make a DXF importer, but I think there is already a plugin. I can't remember if it still works or not. I think Patrick Rainbury made where it imports a step or a DXF one by each other across, which I just do that stuff in Rhino anyway, because it's just so much better at handling a bunch of line work.
Yes. Imagine like automatically importing 100 sheets of DXF geometry into Fusion, just watching it stall into oblivion.
Implode.
Yeah.
Computer would light on fire.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
Cool.
Yeah, fun times. Would love to do more of that, but just need the use cases. And that, it was great having a very specific use case challenge that day to just go, right, let's do this.
I think what's impressive, even when I tried it, there wasn't that much published, I don't think, or easy to access. It's like last fall or summer when I made the step version importer, and somehow the GPT at the time was like 3.5 maybe, like knew enough to write it all for me. Like I just kept telling it, oh, this is broken, and 10 revisions later, now it does all that I want. And it's like, or now you can either give it all the API guidelines, or like it just knows what it can do.
Magically knows, yeah.
I don't know anything about this, but there's this cursor AI that I keep seeing. I'm getting like code developer, engineer, software engineer people on TikTok, and they've been talking about this cursor AI, and supposedly it's like better than GitHub Copilot, which I think is in particular, rather than the LLMs we are using, these are meant to do coding, like alongside you, like when you're in a coding environment. And I don't know that I'm up to snuff to try that out, or if I knew it was doing a good thing or not, but it's interesting.
Pretty interesting. I think the guys on This Day in AI have talked about this. I can't remember what their views on it were, but yeah, it sounds like it's pretty popular.
Yeah, the guys that I was watching were saying it was better. So cool.
Yeah,
maybe I'll use that someday.
A year or so ago, I tried to install Copilot in VS Code. It's or some
Right.
sort of plug-in in VS Code to sort of do this, and it was just beyond my pay grade. I was like, it wants me to start writing code. I don't know how to do that. It's like I immediately came up against the wall.
The GPT.
Like, I don't know how to integrate this thing.
Yeah,
cool.
Same. I'm kind of the same spot where it's like sounds cool, but like it would be more useful if I had any concept of how to start that. So,
speaking of sort of progression of tools, I was in Dropbox looking for something the other day, and I came across a folder called DALL-E, where like almost 2 years ago, almost to the day, I'd been saving like, my first experiments using DALL-E image gen, September 2022. Wow. And it was back in the day when you saved the file, it would save the prompt in the file name. So I was like, I can.
Right.
So let's try that same prompt in current DALL-E and just see what the difference is. And I'd drop those images into Airtable there, but you can kind of see. Yeah,
2022
it's not mind-blowing, but it's like same prompt, 2 years apart. It's like, yeah, we've come a fair way.
It's pretty crazy. I mean, the one is like real sketchy. It looks like somebody scanned it or used Illustrator's like take this bitmap and turn it into a vector, and it always looks pretty crappy. And the second one is like insanely detailed, and to my eye, there's no mistakes. It's not like misshapen in any way.
Yeah, like
it looks like somebody drew it.
Yeah, like the rabbit is supposed to be holding like a set of calipers. The calipers, even in the new image,
the calipers
kind of
are backwards. Okay, never mind.
Bit whack, bit weird. But at least
they're inverted.
There's a bit of a spanner in the old image, but otherwise there's no sort of indication. It's supposed to be a coat of arms of a rabbit holding a precision measuring tool and something. And there's no precision measuring tool in the first image. And it's a very wonky looking set of calipers in the new one. Anyway, I just thought it was curious. I'd be interested to continue doing that same prompt over the years and see where it gets to.
Just keep going. Well, let's look at the hand. It's illustrated, so we didn't get. If we would have had human hands, we would have had a nice or text.
Yeah, exactly.
His paws are better, although it's kind of merging into the handle.
But I tried the O1 preview stuff during the week when I was fiddling with coding, when I was doing the Kitaparts 2D configurator rejig. Mm-hmm. And I was like, right, let's put this O1 preview to the test. It's supposed to be the best, powerful reasoning model. And so I took all the work that I had been doing and I was like, cool, can you distill this project into the ultimate prompts for a single shot? I'm going to give this to another LLM, distill this into like the best possible chance for it to get it, single shot it in one go, get the project right. And the prompt was tight. It had all the information in it that I thought it needed. And I plugged it into O1 Preview and it did its cool little like, I'm doing this and then I'm thinking about that thing, which I found really impressive in the moment. I was like, oh, wow, it's thought for a whole minute. This is going to be amazing. And then the UI just totally failed. Like, it's like
I thought too hard.
Like it was a completely non-functional HTML file. It was just like it was impressive in terms of how many buttons it had put in the menu, but that was the extent of it. And I was like, okay, let's give this a fair shot. So then I fed it to like Claude Sonnet and 4.0 and another model, and like all of them failed in terms of that single shot test. The most impressive one from a single shot was the O1 Mini preview model, which the UI kind of looked the coolest, but again, didn't work at all. And so, yeah, my takeaway from that was for doing that sort of stuff, like multi-shot is obviously the way to go, refinement. And I wonder whether something like this Cursor AI environment that you've mentioned is kind of the next logical step of like, rather than faffing around getting it to rewrite the whole code base every time because I don't know how to copy and paste code, of just like, oh, I'm working on this bit now. Well, how do I improve this function or this bit? It's like, that probably starts to make sense to use a tool like that.
It probably really just matters in you and I's our use of how the UI works. Because I feel like if we can just target that certain area you want to work on and it's it can see the context rather than, we just keep getting, that's how my use has always been. It rewrites the whole thing. And then I'm like, well, you changed a bunch of other stuff that I didn't ask you about, It's like schizophrenic. I lost my, we talked about it, and I think I know why, because I think it was literally the day after we had recorded a month ago.
Yeah.
Where I lost GPT Plus.
Oh, really?
And so I tried to use it the next day, and it was just like, boop, nope, can't do that anymore. And I was like, oh, interesting.
What were you trying to do?
So I don't have the previews anymore.
Okay.
It doesn't want to do... I gave it a URL and tried to get it to...
Oh, shit.
This is going to be topical. I gave it the URL for the what's new for September Fusion because I was like, this is really long. I don't want to read this. I was like, can you give me an executive summary of this? And it was like, sorry, you've ran out of this. You can try again tomorrow. And I was like, what?
No.
And then I was going over to Sim Theory and I gave it the same task with a couple models and it just told me I'd run out of credits.
Oh, no.
And I was like, what? I barely use that. I messaged you. I was like, I barely use this. So I contacted their support and showed him what I got. And he's like, oh, yeah, you can't really do browsing on the plane you're on. And I was like, oh, okay. It's like, you've only used 55,000 tokens of 2.5 million for your plan. But so I guess browsing is, I did it a couple times. I don't know if it's like a limit of 5 or something, but I'll give them that it's just not very well documented, like what all you can and can't do. But I didn't realize there was limits to some of those things.
Me neither.
We'll see.
And I've started running into them too since you messaged a couple of days ago. I've hit exactly the same point yesterday where I was like, I'm stuck. All my tools are falling apart.
We're an equivalent amount of AI use.
And
what did I do? I lost my one good tool.
My urge immediately was to renew my ChatGPT subscription, which I haven't done yet, but it's like, where's the button to get it back? Quick.
Right. It's probably going to be exactly like cutting the cord for cable and I only need Netflix. And then they're like, and Hulu, and just keep adding different AIs. We're like, I didn't have any of these things a year ago.
Yeah.
I haven't really succeeded. My best thing this week was definitely having it watch my email thread and give me some tips on, I guess I've done some other stuff. I think people are probably tired of listening to our AI chats, but I just find it just endlessly useful. I have it as a shortcut. If I swipe down on my iPhone, it's a button to GPT.
Oh.
And so it just opens up a search right away. And speaking of one-shot answers, it's like, I will just ask it something fairly specific, anything that I would have Googled before. But, now that I know that it can do math or give me a ratio of how many, this to this, it's like, it'll just give me the great answer the first time, basically. It's just, that's why I was just disappointed in Apple Intelligence not coming out for a while, because I was like, I just want that integrated.
I
don't
it
need
right
it to be
now.
GPT.
Baby.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've got a squillion things going in the van in an hour off to Melbourne. I better go keep packing them.
But I gotta head off too.
Justin's video will be in the show notes. And if you want to play with my Kinaparts configurator with hilarious Tetris music, that's also linked. And I'll get back to
we didn't get any
back to my rave.
Suggestions we need suggestions for secret episode
Come on.
topics. That's our excuse for not recording one this week. God, this is just a great look. I love it. It looks like you're one of those people that has the extra glasses on top of your glasses. Really extremely though. Really extreme though.
Extreme.
Okay.
Tra-la. See you next time. Oh, this elevator is going down.
I got on Inception.